High School, overseeing our athletics department. I want to echo Dr. V's sentiments and just thanking all the folks that helped make this evening possible, from the city who granted us this beautiful room to gather in, to Joanna and Lisa who did a lot of the work to put together this evening, to Rick McCurdy and his staff and his CTE students, as well as our film and production crews. They're here as well. And then Tim Fay, our new athletic director, helped us out in getting tonight going. So I thought that we would start off tonight just with the idea of what a student athlete is, and better than for me to say that, to hear from one of our more accomplished Longhorns, in Delaney Nakamoto. And she spoke with Dr. V in an interview, and I want to play that for you. She talks a little bit about, for her experience at RBV and what that means to her. And I think it really is something as coaches that kind of grounds us in why we do what we do.
I run track and I've been doing for 4 years here, and I've also come competing in the sophomore season. I think playing sports has given me a way to cope with both highs and lows throughout high school and in life in general, especially during the pandemic. I've learned to develop resilience, accountability, leadership, respect, and patience. It's definitely kept me healthy both physically and mentally, and it's also boosted my confidence. Probably the most challenging thing is juggling work, school, and sports at the same time, but with good time management, everything works out. And I think some advice I give to an incoming freshman that's interested in athletics here at Rancho is that you're always a student before being an athlete. So that means in the end, you have to prioritize academics here. This season for track, I plan on, I have some goals set aside for me. I really want to accomplish them, and hopefully I can walk on or try out or even be recruited by one of the UCs that I would apply to for next year. So I'm excited about that. I'm thinking biology, education. I'm not really sure yet. I'm still figuring it out as I go.
So I think that it's important to remember, hang on. That as far as coaches go, I mean, I'll speak from my own experience as well, that when I first started getting into coaching, the most important thing for me was winning games, right? And we all get into this industry, I think in some small way, to be competitive. We're competitive folks. But I think as I continued to work on in sports and started working with student athletes, I really reframed my thinking and thinking about helping young people reach a better place in their lives and using the time and this platform to be able to support student athletes in accomplishing goals beyond just the athletic court or field. So I think it's important for us to remember that we're working with young people that have goals both athletically and also beyond. And that we're accomplishing great things here at RBV already. This past year, our field hockey program won a CIF Division I championship and had a first-team All-CIF performer. Our girls tennis program, we were undefeated league champions. And Delaney Nakamoto, whom you just saw, represented the section of San Diego in a prestigious state award as the CIF Spirit of Sport recipient. In the wintertime, our girls basketball program was runners-up in Division III and advanced all the way to the Southern California Regional semifinals. We had a girl wrestler compete at the Masters event where she was a runner-up and made it to the state event where she was a second-team All-CIF. In the spring, our baseball program was league champions, and the track and field program was represented at the state event both by Tyler Knowles in discus and Alexis Lobato Huerta in the 100-meter. Overall, we had 12 student athletes that signed national letters of intent to compete at four-year colleges and universities, and we had 60 all-league selections, and you can see the breakdown there. We are a strong athletic program when it comes to female athletes, and that's something that we should be proud of, and also something that I know that overall we want to continue to build and grow our entire athletic program. And know that our impact not only is seen in the courts and the gyms and the fields, but also is in the classrooms where our students are participating in arts programming and participating in the Chalk Festival. They're participating in Festival of the Arts. They are in productions and are impacting our campus in a variety of ways. Know that our student athletes are also participating in world language programs, where we have 42 seniors that last year earned the Seal of Bioliteracy, where we have student athletes that represent the AP, IB, ELD programming. And just know that we're focused on equity as well. And I think the big thing for me coming and speaking tonight is wanting to provide our coaches with this platform to launch and really be able to, as Dr. B said, inform. So I want to make sure that we're gaining some knowledge here tonight. But I'm also giving you some things to hopefully take with you. So I want to make sure that this is informational and also inspirational. So I'm so happy that we have our 3 guest speakers here tonight. And our first one is Joan Faus, who is here tonight from Student Support Services. And I think it's really important in a changing landscape for us to make sure that we are understanding of not only who our student athletes are and who they are as people, but also some of the legislature, the ed code that surrounds kind of some of the changing nature. And so I think it's important that we hear from her as she represents our students at the district level and also serves as one of our 2 Title IX coordinators at the district level, so she can provide some information with that. So with that, I'll turn the mic over to Joan, and let's welcome her to this evening's event.
Oh, great to be here. Joan Faus, I'm at Student Support Services. And I'm really happy that I'm here. I know that Maria Alshama, she has done a lot of these presentations. And actually what's really neat is that I was able to come today because I come from the lens of the district office, right? So if we ever had any sort of situation, then we would be the ones going into the ed code. So I'm really happy to be here. And I know you didn't give yourselves a shout out to Sam Eshleman and Dr. V. They're the ones that put this together. And I haven't seen things like this occur very often in different districts. So anyway, if you don't mind giving them a applause. So these are just some things we're going to go over, just basics, some recommendations, data with legal information, other rights, and a follow-up. So first, there's just some common terms. So we're going to talk about LGBTQ, I, am, she, her. So that is said on purpose. It really makes a difference if you introduce yourself to students as with your pronouns. Some common terms are gender expression. So for instance, maybe I might feel like I'm dressing in a masculine way or a feminine way. So that's our expression. Then we have identity, like how we identify ourselves as our gender. If I identify as non-binary, female, male. Who you're attracted to, so your orientation, and your sex at birth, so what the doctor said that you are. And also, we have some leaders in the groups that we'll be referring to, such as Maria Alshama, that you can talk to. So she's always welcome in every school. She's always happy to help with anything that you have questions about with students that consider themselves queer or LGBTQ. So these are some of her terms that she likes to refer to. So I made sure I put them up so that you understand what she would talk about. She talks about a lot of students feeling like they're questioning when they're in middle school and starting high school at times as well. So these are, this is what she wanted to share, that when transgender and non-binary youth, who feel like they are respected with their pronouns, they actually consider suicide at half the rate. So you have around 50% of students who consider themselves LGBTQ considering suicide. And you cut that in half just by respecting their pronouns. Such a simple way. So when I heard this, actually, I heard Maria speak. I was able to go to the AXA Lead with Pride conference that they had. It was the first one that they had over here in Oceanside. I really wanted to go even before I joined the district. And I wasn't able to go, and finally with the district I was able to go. And she was one of the presenters. I was able to hear her, and this was something she shared that really resonated. This is a simple video. I'm not really going to show it, but it's very basic on understanding the difference between what sex you're assigned at birth versus what you identify with, how you might express yourself, or who you're attracted to. So I'm not going to actually play it.
What now?
And the point is that we don't have to understand it to respect it. So just because we don't understand, let's say that someone doesn't quite understand how someone can feel a certain way, that's not really what the point is. It's that we still respect it. Such as if someone went by even going by Z, like Z is speaking. And with everything that you see, by the way, even board policies, everything from your handbooks, everything is changing to not even have pronouns. So even if you have a form that says she or he, that will be converted, and if you see that, might as well start converting it already before it's signaled to be changed, to say more things like students versus he, she. So these are some statistics, and this is more of our why. So 68% of students who consider themselves LGBTQ, they have anxiety. 58% are discouraged to go to the restroom with where they identify. We cannot require a student who identifies as a different gender to go to a different restroom. They're able to go to the restroom that they identify with, but regardless of that, they're discouraged to use that one. Actually, they avoid the restroom. So Maria Eshleman, she knows a lot of students that do consider themselves LGBTQ. They try to not drink a lot of water. They try to avoid eating very much. They hold it in because they would rather just wait to go home, to go to the restroom. And about 50% of them aren't permitted. And as you can see, a lot of them consider suicide seriously, 40 to 50%, and 75% experience discrimination. So these are some ways that we can help. One is just referring to your own pronouns. I even wish that I thought about this before so that my business cards would say she, her. As long as it just says she or her, it makes a big difference. I sign my signature on my email with she, her. If you introduce yourself to a group of students and you say she, her, you're basically setting the precedence for all the students to know that, one, you respect other students that are in front of you that are LGBTQ, and that you are an ally for them so they can possibly go to you. Like if someone was being rude to them, if somebody was doing things that are totally inappropriate, they might feel like they can come to you about it. Make yourself visible and use gender-inclusive language. So there's some students that don't refer to themselves as she or he. There's some that refer to themselves as they, for example. So we try our best to say words like students, scholars, athletes, versus that, because the moment you say it with a pronoun, that student may feel like they're not sure if they're part really of the class. Like as if, let's say that everyone here spoke English except one person. Opposite. Let's say everybody understood some Spanish, but there was like two people here who didn't really speak Spanish. And then I add in something funny in Spanish, and everybody laughs except those two people. We didn't mean anything against those two people, but they feel a little not really part of the group. So same thing. So at the Lead with Pride conference, these were some recommendations from other people. And everybody came from AXA. So for instance, Erin, the new, I think she's moving into the presidency. Erin, she was there at the AXA conference. The new director, the new regional director and director of California was there as well, supporting the first annual conference. And when they were there, they recommended some of the things, like for instance, if a parent says things like, oh, we should be careful about students' ages and what we're teaching them. Yes, you could agree with that. Yes, we should be careful with that. But you're not necessarily saying you are saying that things are not in place for a reason, but you're helping the parent understand that, yes, you could agree with some aspect of what they're saying, such as considering someone's age. That was a recommendation. Another one is badges. If your badge, for instance, it doesn't have to be, for instance, even the rainbow. You could put the rainbow on a badge if you wanted to, or you can use the blue, white, is it the blue, white, and pink? If you have something like that, that helps too. Just as soon as they see it, they know that you're a safe person. Basically, they want to know who's safe, and they want to know if they're safe with you. Taking the time to listen and modeling positive attitudes about it. So if we say certain words or certain terms, or we react a certain way about a situation, or we use certain, just really careful about those words that we use. If we model it, they're listening and they're watching. So there was a student panel. There was 2 different student panels I was able to see. And they talked to us about what they recommend, what they would like to see, and what they appreciate. This is important to you because you go on a lot of trips, or hopefully you'll go on more trips, right? Hopefully you'll have buses. So one thing that they talked about is to try to pre-plan for field trips. So if something happens in this situation, what am I going to do? If we're going to a game somewhere else, what's the situation with the restrooms there? What am I going to do? So helping them confront those situations. Also, if you mention your pronouns, especially if you know that somebody does use a different pronoun, introducing your pronouns consistently helps them. That's a way. A rainbow flag or a little ally symbol does help them. And just knowing that there's an adult around that they feel safe with. They specifically pushed that. So they said that even if there's, for instance, an area where there's an adult that's supervising them, they want the adult that's around them to be an ally. They want it to be an adult that they know will trust them, will confide in them, they can confide in them, and they can tell them if something's going on. Because you know how it is. It's not always blatant when somebody leaves someone out. It's not always blatant when someone discriminates against someone. Sometimes it's seen in just their behavior. So they want someone there that will notice those things. So they really care about that, and of course, training. So this was another presenter that was there, and he was overseeing HR. He mentioned that the biggest concerns usually come from the staff or the adults and the parents. It's not really the students as many of the times that there's a concern about, it's actually the adults. That there can be some concerns or some views that impact getting in the way of what is law or what is ed code, what is the guidance from California Department of Education. And by the way, guidance isn't really guidance. Guidance is more this that we shall do. It's not really you may. So staff sometimes comes before students in these situations, and we want to make sure that we think about that. And we might have some internalized homophobia. And if we grew up a certain way, or with certain mental models or people saying things to us, then it could affect the way that we see it. It could affect the way that we react initially when we just hear something like this. Maybe some of you are feeling that, or maybe some of you have felt like that in the past. And so it's just recognizing that. So remember that there is historical trauma, which works with all of us. So if there has been any history of any kind of marginalization, then it affects us. And this also includes our students that are LGBTQ with things that are going on with the history of how they've been treated. And also if there's educators that are coming out, that's really difficult as well and challenging. And the worst is in K through 8th, but the worst is 8th grade, actually. So right before they come to you, they just had a really difficult year. So, and it's a personal decision to come to disclose. So it's not where we are necessarily more proud of someone because they came out or less proud of someone because they haven't yet. It's just about their decision about when they do. And with leadership, with all of you who are leaders, the recommendations are these items which sound a lot like social emotional learning. So self-awareness and regulating ourselves too, reading people, connecting, managing when we're uncertain, risk-taking, and committing to this cause. And these are some legal aspects. Are we ready for the legal part? Well, what they want to know is, let you know, is that these are some of their terms. So this is more specific. You can see gender expression, identity, and dead naming. We really want to be careful when we get into this about their names and their pronouns. If anyone, including adults, purposely continues to call someone by a different pronoun or calling them by their birth name, but not the name of preference, it is considered harassment. So we want to be careful with dead naming. So with personal pronouns, these are, we just want to try to use as many neutral pronouns as we can and use more like parents versus your mom and dad. And this isn't even just for these students, because let's say that they have two moms or two dads, or they don't have a dad, or they don't have a mom. So just in general, it's useful if we just say parents or guardians. So these are some of our rights with their records. So there's a difference in some records that are mandatory versus interim, where we just have some of their files for a period of time, and where we just have some files for like a year or just for a little bit of time. So when it comes to their long-term records that are mandatory, that aren't that many actually, like for instance their transcripts, that will have their legal name given at birth unless the parent changes it. But all of these other files, they're interim. So all those files can be changed with the student, and we'll get into that. So for instance, the mandatory ones that will have that legal name are these items, like their place of birth, right? Their transcripts, date of graduation. But there is no law prohibiting any changes to this gender, for instance, in their information that goes beyond a mandatory record. So with interim, it's different. So let's say they go to the health office, in the health office. Let's say they haven't had an IEP yet. That is an interim record. Or on their state tests, their progress reports. If we give them a disciplinary measure, we have a report about that. Those are interim. So those could actually be updated with a different name. Other things that might come up too, that might have a different name, are all these items. It could be their, for instance, their certificate at the end of the year, any awards that they're given. In colleges, for instance, they made it that they have to be given their diploma with the name of their choosing. So you can probably guess it's going to come down towards high school and so forth. So right now it's just something to consider and do, but it could easily become something that is absolutely required. But regardless, yes, the students have a right to their privacy, but it gets tricky, right? It gets really challenging because they have the right to their privacy, and we want to make sure that we respect that and be careful with if they don't have certain people know, like their parents. So that's where it becomes a big challenge, right? But as soon as they want a different gender expression, and we fill out the paperwork for them, it's not just where every period they're changing it necessarily, but if they are filling that out as paper that we have about their gender update or their name change to identify with the gender, then that has to be immediately respected right away. And it would be one of the top priorities. I know that with rosters it might be, you have to go and make sure that you're updating everything, but as soon as they choose that, then they have a right to change it, and we must call them by their new pronoun that they identify with and with their new name. And, and we'll get into also some of what the panel has said. The panel of students has said that really they just want you to try. So if we make a mistake and we accidentally call someone a different pronoun and we try to correct ourselves, that's the most important thing. Even when I was at the conference, there was this boy, but that was born as a girl, but expresses himself very femininely. So he was dressed in more feminine clothes, but he identified as a boy. And I accidentally used a different pronoun right when I was talking to him. And he just said, "Oh yeah, I know, it's just because of my clothing." I was like, "Oh, we were just talking about this." So it happens. It's just more that it's not purposeful, and we try to correct ourselves. So this is what the CDE says. So they say that we're required to address them by the names and the pronouns with their identity, and that there is no need for having a legal change to do this. And this is their guidance. And remember, their guidance is really more what we shall do. So we're respecting all of their changes, and we do not share with parents if they do not want it to be shared with parents. So you can tell that the districts must protect the students as much as possible. We have something on Aries, or I'm sorry, Synergy. I used to use Aries. On Synergy, we have something where the office can click a little box where they can say to print out information with their born name, such as if they're sending something home. And the student, when they make these decisions to change, they talk about who they're going to let know, what's going to happen in this situation, being realistic about the possibility of some disclosure happening, not on purpose, and trying for the student to consider those situations. And we just basically do our due diligence. We just do the best we can. And we make sure that we're doing the best we can to protect them, but at the same time, whoever that they speak to, that they have those conversations. I just recently changed the form for the gender changes because it said, do you wish to have a gender support plan? And these are conversations we have to have with the students. So they will have a support plan. They will have these conversations so that they think about all these things that might happen. Because we know the parent might show up and might ask for some information and somehow it's disclosed on accident. But we want to do everything we can to avoid it. So with you, that can be a challenge too if you're at a game and the parents are coming and so forth. So these are conversations you can have, for instance, with the counselor and the social worker if you know that you have that situation, to talk about what does the student want you to do in that situation. If the student wants you to keep addressing them by their preferred pronoun and by their preferred name, even if the parent shows up, then that's what we do. And if the student says, no, you know what, if my parent's around, just go ahead and call me what they call me, then that's what we would try to remember to do. And these are just some more ed codes, just so that you can be able to refer to them. The parent, of course, can change the name if they have a legal manner of changing their name. And these are just some more items, such as the inclusive sexual health and HIV prevention, unless they opt out. And also just the Fair Ed Act is about trying to make sure that we have all of us represented in what we're learning about. And so everybody that's in our classroom, everybody that's in our school should be reflected in what we're learning about. From our history, it should be in our libraries, and it should be in our conversations, and this includes all groups. So that's the Fair Ed Act. These are some items also from Maria Shama, so I wanted to make sure I shared them with you. So she wanted to remind everyone that, for instance, yes, if they do identify as a certain gender, they are allowed to use the restroom that they identify with. If somebody else wants to use a restroom that is by themselves, they can. They can use a gender-inclusive bathroom. They can use a nurse's restroom. Anyone can use the restroom that is solitary, but we cannot force a student just because they identify a certain way to use a different restroom. And this act, this one is more talking about making sure that we talk again about who's going to know about their if their transgender status, and remembering that it doesn't matter how old the student is, they can make this decision. So right here, this is something that is pulled out from recommending to the school boards. So this is pulled out exactly what is sent to all of the board members of all California. And I put a link on this. I shared this with Sam Eshleman, so he can share it with you. That's no problem if you'd like. But this way you can see exactly what it is that they recommend and they tell the board members of the entire state. And so if you want to refer exactly to, for instance, even CIF, for instance, it'll go right into it about what would happen and what needs to happen. So here, specifically with CIS, they just talk about making sure that everything is consistent with their gender identity. And I know that we have a lot of family members, we have a lot of things that have been said in the past. And so I am sure that you hear people that have a different viewpoint, or you may have a different viewpoint. Really, there's 2 points that really make a big deal. One is that these are students that a lot of them want to kill themselves, and that if we just show them some respect, they don't as much. So that's a big deal. And 2, it's their right. And so that's what we're here for. We follow the rights that they have, and also remembering that it's bigger than that. It's that they want to not be here just because they identify a different way. And it doesn't mean we have to identify a different way or have someone in our life that identifies a different way to be able to understand that. So you can reference this if you'd like to. And when it comes to any ideas, you know, it's really about having those honest conversations with ourselves and making sure that we know their rights, with how we identify students, how we call them, their pronouns, and that we show that we can respect that, whether or not we understand it. So that's some stuff with this. When it comes to also a few more things about athletics with gender, I know most of you have taken the Title IX, right? Gender in sports. If you haven't, just so you know, on Keenan, we'll go ahead and assign that to you, but everyone would take it, and your athletic director will get the list of who still needs to take it, and we'll support you in getting access if you need help. But basically with Title IX, it gets into 2 items. Title IX does get into sexual harassment, but it also goes into athletics. And with athletics, it's about equity. It's about having equal access, equal amount of coaches, equal money between the boys and girls sports. Even though it's interesting that we say boys and girls sports, even though we want to refrain from using certain pronouns. But that's a whole other thing. So that's mostly it. But I wanted to ask if you have any questions for me, or can I clarify something about these items of, like, for instance, their gender identity, any of these, the Fair Ed Act, or the Ed Code. Yes?
From a district standpoint, are they going to start supporting gender neutral bathrooms? Because aside from the chief officer and none on our campus, and that has been a big issue for our kids at IT, the
Good question. So when it comes to the students, just a reminder that students that identify as female can go into a female restroom, and students that identify as male can go into a male restroom. And it's the students that do not wish to use it that can go to the health office and walk to the office or go somewhere to use a different restroom, just to clarify that. When it comes to the facilities, as much as we can do, we'll try to pitch it and try to promote having more restrooms that are just single, for instance, single stalls. That's the best one to be able to have available. But just so you're aware, if someone requests to use their own restroom somewhere else, that's the person that requests it and goes. But no one is required to go to a different restroom if they identify differently. But it is a challenge with the situations where you're trying to consider all the different things, but in the end, it really is that if someone feels uncomfortable, that's the person to
Play on the team that they identify with, or is it their choice?
If you have a situation like that, great question. So that is up to them. Hopefully, someone has spoken to them before they come to you, so you may be the person they end up speaking with. And so if any student does come to you to have this conversation, then you can ask them who they feel comfortable with speaking about this to. Do they feel comfortable with using in the counselor or the social worker to have this conversation? Because they have a lot of expertise with this and they have all the forms and everything. But basically, you want to ask them who they feel comfortable speaking with and keeping it there. And you feel free to contact Student Support Services if you have questions and they only want to speak with you. Otherwise, it should normally be the counselor or the social worker that is having that conversation with you. So they should have had that conversation beforehand normally, where they'll let you know. And they'll tell you, oh, so he or she or they decided that if the parents are around, it's you to try to address them by the name the parent wishes. Or just go ahead. Sometimes sometimes they just want you to go for it and see what happens. And say is there a name that they identify with. Good question. But it is something that is evolving. If you do have any questions, any concerns, feel free to reach out. Even if it doesn't go with certain ideas, it's okay for us to have that conversation. Okay? So feel free to reach out or any little details of Student Support Services, and then we can try to help out. And I'll promote anything I can with having facilities to support more students to feel comfortable. Because even with the students that identify as LGBTQ, they're avoiding going to the restroom, period, because of feeling uncomfortable. Well, thank you. Thank you.
The oldest is sitting down in the blue, Zion. And the second one, I'll give the name, is Daniel. And then Dave is in the blue on the top, David is in the orange shirt, and then Noah is the baby. Those are our kids. And yeah, it's a blessing to be a father, learning a lot, continuing to grow, continuing to develop, and trying to help them be the best they can be, and trying to make sure I'm doing what I need to do.
And they're coming to rank you.
We're back in the area, so you never know. You never know. Just a little bit, real quick, a little bit about me. So I was actually born and raised here in Vista. And I went to San Diego State University on a scholarship, football scholarship. I actually got a football scholarship to play linebacker and never touched the defensive side of the ball. I played fullback and running the ball a little bit. So they were stacked when I first got there. They had like All-American Kurt Morrison, and he went on to the NFL. Like all four of their starting linebackers went to the NFL. Like so I was like, they're like, if you want to play, you better be playing on the side of the ball right now. So that's what happened. But I had a good time at. After I graduated college, I worked for the Navigators for 7 years, which is a Christian organization, and I went to help launch a campus ministry and helping with a peer-to-peer organization in Maryland, actually. So I moved to Maryland. I was there for 7 years. just helping young adults on a black college campus to grow and develop. And then after that, I moved to Colorado for 7 years, and I worked for the Department of Human Services, working with young adults in the juvenile justice system, helping them stay out of jail, helping them transition back into the community, and helping them work on whatever the judge told them to work on while they're in jail. So just helping them just be support. And then I moved back here. My wife really wanted to come back to California, and so we made it back here. And I'm working for Vista Community Clinic in the health promotions department, just making sure, helping support our youth and young adults when it comes to substance abuse prevention, early intervention, and support. So that's what I'm doing now. I also have a business, doing multimedia. I've been doing that for a long time. One of my big clients is Todd Durkin. You might know him. He was like a celebrity coach. He trained LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees. And I did an episode a few weeks ago with Drew Brees because he still works with Todd Durkin. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm not going to try to make this boring, so I might skip a few slides. I'm going to try to keep you guys awake, because I know I was in football. When I was in football in college, after a long day, we had to sit in meetings, and I'd be sitting there sleeping, right? And I would get in trouble. They said, stand up in the back. So I got used to, if ever I fell asleep, and when I was at SSU, our practices, the coach had a great idea to start practice at 6 a.m. in the morning, so he could get his stuff done. And so the first year, it was 6 a.m. practices, you had to be fully padded, dressed, ready to warm up at 6 a.m. And then next year, he was like, well, we're going to move to 6:30. It's only 30 minutes. That's not even the change. So, but you can tell by the end of the day, when we had to do some meetings, I was like, I'm about to fall asleep. So I stood up in the back, and that's one thing I learned. If I'm about to fall asleep, stand up in the back. So if any of y'all about to fall asleep, just stand up in the back. I'm fine with that. I'm already way off script. So we just gonna go back. It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. So this is the what I want to talk about today. This picture is a metaphor for where I'm at in this season of life and my mindset for most of my life. In this picture, you see me at San Diego State, street stretching for the end zone, fully extended, trying to make that touchdown. I have someone on both my legs. I think I broke a few tackles, but I'm like, I'm gonna try to get it. And that's kind of how my life, I feel like, has been, where many times we feel like life is trying to hold us back. Life is trying to tackle us. Life is trying to beat us down. But it's hard to beat someone who never gives up. And I think as parents, as coaches, that's what we are trying to instill in our communities, that unbreakable spirit to drive us to excel. I want to give a special, in addition to some of these coaches that coached me in this room, I want to give a special thanks to some of these coaches. One that just passed recently, Coach Lucian Hardy. He coached me for a while. He helped me, got me some jobs in the summertime, helped me with a lot of different life skills. I know he blessed a lot of different people. So he was a blessing to help me on and off the field. Coach Hall, these are all three that I was keeping in contact with. Coach Hall, he's still around, still coaching here, still doing sports, and so I still keep in contact with him, but he helped me also on and off the field summertime, just encouraging me and helping me work out to be successful. And then some of y'all might know the third one, Dwayne Coleman. He was the, Oceanside? El Camino.
Oceanside superintendent.
Oceanside superintendent, and I think his son, me and his son were the same year, so I was volunteer coaching when I was there, but he also helped me out. Brought me to his community and was really a support also off the field. So I have a special thanks for these coaches who spent time with me off the field to help me make sure I was performing on the field and in life well. No, there's a lot of in between there, but we're going to go to these main points. And these are some 5 life lessons that I'm learning to help me just be resilient. Because I know, like I said, life can beat us up, life can beat me down, but you just got to keep on going. So these are 5 lessons I've learned. I'm going to give 5 points and 5 stories real quick. So let's start with the first one, progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. Give me a second. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I've had to learn how to let things go so I can make things happen. Me and my family, like I said, I used to work for a Christian organization, so I'm a strong Christian brother. I like to go to church. But when you go to church, people spend, they look nice, they have their hair done, they probably got their nails done, they got their nice shoes on. They come to church on time with a smile. For me and my 4 kids and my wife, it's a struggle to try to look just to get out the door and look like you're ready to go to church. And many times you'd be like, all right, well, let's just go. We're just gonna show up. But I think a lot of us, and a lot of times we were like, well, I ain't about to spend, it's too much work, we're just gonna stay home. The point that I wanna make is that you don't have to be perfect to show up. You don't have to have it all together to get started. Sometimes life is overwhelming. You just gotta do what you gotta do, give what you can give, and make some progress. Sometimes you just gotta show up. I had to show up to be blessed and just be a blessing to those around me, just the way I was. I had to learn to worry less about the opinions of others and worry more about the health of my family and well-being, because they are the most prized possession at the end of the day. Life is messy. Nobody's perfect. We all got stuff we gotta work on. And those that look like they have it all together usually are holding on by a few threads. So a few threads to break and everything falls apart. So they need us. We need to be the people that are comfortable just being ourselves. To feel safe to be ourselves, being courageous to be ourselves. So I had to learn to choose progress over perfection. A connection it could be for coaches is we're all trying to get it together. We're all trying to make some progress, but I think most of the values and things that we learn happen in the process, in trying, not in being perfect. All right, point number 2, protect your peace. I've been saying this a lot lately. I've been thinking it, but I've been saying it more lately. And the point is, relationships are hard. Just like life, they are messy. But if you learn how to navigate these valuable relationships in your life, they will be a great source of blessing and instead of your biggest burden. So I've been married for 10 years, and me and my wife have different values, different strengths, different gifts, different abilities. And this causes natural tension like any relationship, because you're all different. Learning, and it's something that will never go away, but it doesn't mean it has to be a burden. I'm learning more about how to accept my wife's differences and letting go of trying to change or make her see things the way I see them. I'm constantly challenged to appreciate her just the way that God made her. That actually creates less stress in me, just be, okay, that's the way God made you, let me just learn how to appreciate you, because you're a unique creation of God. The way I feel about my wife is less about what she does for me and more about appreciating her, how she was made. That keeps me from holding on to bitterness and ultimately protects my own peace, which is important. So my lesson is protect your peace by appreciating those around you and choosing your battles. And I know, like, many times as coaches, you signed up to be a coach, but there's a lot of drama that comes with it, with parents, kids, other coaches. There's all different personalities. You got to manage it. You got to figure out how to, and you can't run from it unless you quit. But a lot of you are not going to do the option. But a lot of times we can't change our situation, but we can change how we see it. So, changing our mindset. I had to learn that a lot. Change my mindset to see the people around me and their strengths and figure out how I can make it a win-win instead of stressing about it, that will help protect your peace. Point number 3, celebrate the wins. Life is busy, and we all have things throughout our day that are competing for our attention. And we choose the things in the day that are most valuable to us. A lot of us choose our families. But what are we doing to prioritize our families and help them be successful? As a father and a husband, I'm constantly thinking about how to influence my family to be the best that they can be. In the classroom, in life, in sports, and wherever. And like many of us, we got busy lives. We don't have a whole bunch of time to just sit there. But we have teachable moments throughout our day. We all have teachable moments. And so what am I doing in those teachable moments that will help them to head in the right direction? And what I found the most effective is just celebrate the wins. You know, kid comes home from school, they get on a test. All right, high five. You know, good job. You know, help inspire them in the right direction. We had kids playing soccer this year, and you know, the first year playing soccer, so they weren't amazing, but they got better throughout the year. And so, like, kid had a rough game, but then they make a good play. So, hey, great job, high five, good job, and celebrate the little wins, celebrate the big wins. Or at our home, the older son might make pancakes for the younger kids. Like, good job, like helping me out, shoot. So, you know, inspiring and celebrating the wins helps them head in the right direction. This has been the best use of my time, and even with my wife, like I said, we're different, so I gotta keep on challenging myself to celebrate the wins and celebrate her in the critical role she plays. And if I do that, a lot of times it makes my job easier. One thing that I can connect to coaches, you have a lot on your plate. Just make sure you prioritize the small and big wins in your life, on your team, with your players, families, coaches. That positive energy will give you the inspiration that you want and need to continue heading in the right direction. And I bet it'll make your job easier. I got 2 more. When you stand up in the back, you're good to go. 2 more. Make things happen. Many times in life, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. But for me, I just thought, okay, well, I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to take 1 step. I'm just going to go in that direction. When I take 1 step, I'm like, okay, I see step 2, number 2. I see a way now. Sometimes we just got to take the first step if we don't know what's going to happen. Or I'm getting a football story, so I ain't giving a football story yet. My first year playing football, guess how old I was, what grade it was. This is my first year playing football. I'm not going to continue this on guesses. 9th grade. 9th grade? Why you say that? Why do you think 9th grade was my first year? Why do you think 9th grade was my first year?
Well, because I was there when you were a 9th grader.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Coach Hammond told me you didn't know what you're doing, but you hit like a train.
That's pretty close. That's 8th grade. 8th grade. so 1 year off. So I actually didn't play football in 8th grade, but that almost didn't happen. So in 8th grade, I signed up to play Pop Warner in Vista. And when I signed up, they didn't know who I was. They were like, "There's no room for you. We don't have no room." I was like, "All right." So I couldn't play in Vista. So I was like, still wanted to play. I was real competitive, and my parents signed me in for San Marcos. The only problem was I didn't have a ride there. So they signed me for San Marcos. They're like, so after school, I had to come from school, walk home from school, no ride home, put my pads on, right? This is embarrassing thinking about it, but I was like in a different mindset back then. Put my pads on, put my stuff on, walk to the bus stop. Got on the bus in full pads, right? Took the bus to San Marcos, got off the bus, walked to the practice field, and waited for practice to start. That was my first year of football, because I was competitive, I just wanted to play. And my parents would pick me up after practice. So it was a lot of work for me even to play football. I had to go to a different city. The lesson is we have things we are passionate about, we don't have the access or but sometimes we don't have the access or resources or support that we want. So we just have to take the first step and make things happen as we go. As coaches, many of us feel like we don't have what we need. This is an opportunity to think outside the box and be creative, to figure out how we can get from where we're at to where we want with the limited resources we have. Sometimes you might have to do things that look embarrassing or beneath you. My question is, how bad do you want it? Point number 5, learn from the losses. Last one. Let's do this. Let's land the plane. I can't remember one thing that I excelled at that I didn't fail at first. Many of y'all can probably relate. If you try to do something that you're great at or better at now, you probably sucked at it when you started. But you had a passion to try to get better. I'm gonna give another story. RBV story, all right? Bring it home. RBV, my first year, which I was like new, right? I'm gonna bring it to the track. Like Hansher said, I wasn't that skilled, but I had a lot of effort. Like, I just go hard. And the same in track, I wasn't that skilled, but I was like, I'm gonna watch people and copy them and try to do my best. And the coaches saw something in me and said, we're gonna put them on varsity, right? The bad thing was, I took L's the whole season. Like, I did not win one thing. I'm like, why? I was like, all right, well, it's better than sitting at home. And I'm gonna watch people who were better than me, and I will learn from them. I'll watch their work ethic. I'm gonna watch how they do things. I'm gonna try to copy them. So I'm taking L's the whole year. I'm like, why am I even not working? I probably win it for my freshman. And then the very last meet was like the freshman invitational. So I went to the freshman invitational, and at that meet, I broke the San Diego freshman long jump record. I got 3 first place, and I got a medal in 4. I was like the field event athlete of the meet. What I learned from that. And then 4 years later, I ended up winning the state champion in 300 hurdles. So sometimes we are put in situations that seem impossible to win. Maybe that season in your life is about something deeper. Maybe it's about building the foundations you need in order so you can excel in life. Just make sure you ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn in this season of life? No matter the outcome. One way to connect as coaches, we need to continue to view our losses not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. These teachable moments can add value to your lives if you take advantage of them. So recap. 5 lessons. And my time's up?
No, you're good.
Okay, you came to the
No, you're good, man.
Progress over perfection, protect your peace, celebrate the wins, make things happen, and learn from the losses. So that pressures in life won't break you, but you can use them to make you stronger. I'm not done yet though, because I work for Vista Community Clinic and they pay me to be here. So I gotta make sure I share about parts of prevention. So real quick, all right? This is on video, right? Because I gotta show this to them. I work for Vista Community Clinic. I'm in a grant-funded position, and it's under the Elevate Youth California in partnership with North Coastal Prevention Coalition and the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People's Youth Council. And One Choice, which is a focus on making sure youth don't use. There's no option for youth to use because youth are more vulnerable when they use marijuana, and it affects their brain, and it's more dangerous for them. So it's better just not to use it all. Let me go to my notes. The good news is most young people don't use marijuana or vape, but a very small percentage and a very small percentage have used it in the last 30 days. The bad news is our youth are more vulnerable to the negative effects of marijuana and vaping and are in greater danger to be exposed to substances like fentanyl, which is now the leading cause of death in the U.S. My goal is I want to see our students, athletes, be successful and excel on and off the field. And one thing that can hold us back from being successful is substance abuse. How can you help? I'm looking forward to connecting with coaches to figure out how I can be support as Vista Community Clinic as an arm of their health promotions department to support your youth, your families, your coaches, and how in 3 things. Try to support coaches, parents, and student athletes, how I want to be a support. Try to encourage you, how can you be a good role model? Because youth hear what you talk about when you don't think they hear what you're talking about. So just making sure, being aware of what you say, what you do around them to be a good role model, and what can you say to encourage them for substance use prevention, to make sure that they know they're educated, they know that they got tools to equip them and to inspire them to make healthy life choices. And then I also want to help, what can you do for those youth who are at risk, who are experimenting? What can you do when it comes to intervene? Or to help them head in the right direction. And I know there's like policies and procedures. I was going to say at risk, if they're at risk of falling in the wrong direction, how can we be supportive? So I want to help in those ways. I do want to partner with RBV as my alma mater. I want to come alongside so I can support the youth, support the coaches, support the parents, and help the youth make healthy choices. So thank you for this presentation.
Balance and make sure you prioritize what's really important, your family and your mental health. So I think that's a huge takeaway I have from that. One of those losses was in a CIF championship game. I didn't check my email that night. But the next speaker was someone that I feel like gave me and provided me with mentorship and guidance throughout my career as a coach. And I'm really excited for him to be able to share some of what he shared with me, because after we lost to him and I saw this small private school that has this robust community of support for their student athletes, and their bench is always the most energetic bench, the most supportive. They care about each other, they respect their coaches. And I said, what is going on with this group? And we did everything we could to be competitive with them in the championship game. We ended up losing. He was gracious enough to sit down with me about a month later, and we talked for about 2 hours just about culture. And I felt like for me as a younger coach, what I was figuring out at that point was, there are limitations to what we can do in terms of our equipment that we have on campus, in terms of the facilities that surround us. But we absolutely have a direct impact on the culture of our program. And it's something that we have a responsibility to really take care of on a day-to-day basis. And it's something that I am happy to now say that RBV has made, and Vista Unified has made, a $150,000 contribution to our culture as an athletics department over the next 5 years in launching the Longhorn Leadership Academy with support from the Jansen Sports Leadership Center in North Carolina. Chad has, Bickley, our next speaker, is someone that has already launched his own leadership academy through this program. And as his time as an athletic director at Santa Fe Christian, he mentored and provided leadership training to a lot of their student athletes. So I'd like to welcome up Chad Bickley as our speaker. He's going to talk to us about how to build a championship program.
Great, because it wasn't, it was great for us, not great for them. But when I walked into the gym and saw 2 of their main players not playing, I think had an effect on that game as well. So one of them was 6'9", and usually our biggest player is about 5'7", so that would have made a major impact on that game. But thanks, got a lot of respect for Sam, got a lot of respect for you guys as a school. I just want to give a little bit of background of the Leadership Academy that you guys are about to get into. I want to talk about for a little bit in this packet, because it has played a major part in our program at Santa Fe. And one of the things, all this stuff is not mine, it's Jeff Jansen's stuff, but it's had a major impact. And what I love about it, it's simple, and it's a step-by-step to help you establish a culture in your program. I want to start with a story that happened to me the first week of June last month. So I had an unbelievable, my playing days are over, okay? I'm 45 years old, and I don't play basketball anymore because I want to save it for my golf game, because I'd rather play golf than I would rather play basketball. But I had an unbelievable opportunity to go back to it's called Coach K Academy, and it's Coach Krzyzewski back at Duke University, and my brother sponsored my way, and we went back, because it wasn't cheap, we went back to Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's a bunch of like 40 and older men, who, about 100 of them, and you get placed on a team, okay, and you get placed in, so there was about 10 teams, we have about 10 players on our team, and you play about 6 games in 3 days. And in that time frame, there's past Duke players, and I've loved watching Duke, and I remember him when they won the championship. That was my era. And those guys were the coaches, and they took it very serious, and they were very competitive. And so it wasn't your just normal adult league. It was a very highly competitive, with not everyone knew how to play the game either, so if you ever played adult league and the screens and all of that, it is painful. And so we get into this, and about the 3rd game, I'm hurting, like my body hasn't hurt ever. And I felt like I pulled 2 hamstrings. I had a hard time running. I had plantar fasciitis, and I'm just limping. But you keep playing. And there was a play that I was standing here to that young lady right over there, and she passed me the ball, and it got stolen. And I was like from here to the podium away, and all of a sudden they run, and I started going, and then my body's like, there's no way you're going to catch it, so I slowed down. Okay, so Quinn Cook was our coach, and Quinn Cook won a national championship with Duke. He has no affiliation with Duke outside. He played with them, and he's part of the program, but he's not on the coaching staff. He wasn't anything, but he was our coach. He was an awesome guy, and he's just a lot of fun. And he played with the Lakers, won a championship, played with the Warriors, won a championship. But he wanted to win. And they called timeout, and he got pretty upset and was, telling us a lot of things in different ways. And was going around, and he was saying, there's no energy, you guys don't want to win, da-da-da-da-da. And then he looked at me, and he goes, and you don't even get back on defense. And I just remember, and then I kind of went blank, and he starts shooting me out, and I just, in my mind, I was going, yeah, but I can't run. Like my hamstrings are gone. Okay, I have planned. You see, you saw me. I'm trying my best, and all these excuses went through my mind. And then he said this. He says, "We don't do that at Duke." And when he said those words, everything changed for me. Everything in my mind went to, he's right. I'm at Cameron Indoor Stadium. We don't do that at Duke. And this isn't Coach K telling me this. This is a guy that's not on the coaching staff. He's not playing there anymore. He comes back to Duke, and that's culture. And there's things, and I just keep, those words keep coming in my mind of, whether it's at my house, like, we don't do that at the Bickley house. Like, we don't do that at Santa Fe. We don't do, what does that mean? And as you establish a culture, you start to establish things where if the coach is doing all the discipline and the behaviors and everything, your culture is not going to be as strong as what it is. And so for me, culture, about 8 years ago, I fell in love with culture. I love coaching, by the way. Coaches, right now, I was athletic director at Santa Fe Christian for a long time. Faith plays a big part in my life, and God called me to be, it's called an executive pastor at a church down in La Mesa. And my job is basically like an athletic director, where I'm in charge of hiring the staff. I oversee the staff, but my number one job is create a culture. And so I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it's like, Well, I'm going to do everything I did in the basketball team. We're going to have a mission, vision, core values, a mindset that we do. And I'm telling you, coaching translates everywhere. Because I feel like every day I coach. Every day I coach people. And I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just saying, why are you late to this meeting? Like, you should be on time. Like, you're 3 minutes late. Like, we don't do that here, right? And so I want to talk to you a little bit and give you step by step, and you can take it or leave it, but I'm telling you, it works. It's something that I've experienced, that to the point right now that I'm just like, this word culture is this word that's out there. But if you define it for your team, your parents, and you get your parents bought in and your coaches and your players, it is unbelievable. What happens is you step back. When I learned it was less about me and it's more about them, everything changed for me. So when I came to Santa Fe, it was about 16 years ago. They were Division V school, and very successful Division V school. And the year I came, they lost the whole team, except for 2 players that were at the end of the bench, so like the 13th and 14th player. So I came in, and I'm a new guy. We're going through all this, and it ended up by the start of the season, we had 13 players. I'm like, 13 players? I'm like, we're still going to have 2 teams. Back then, CIF was like, you could play, I think, 7 quarters. I think it's different now. So it's like, okay, we got to play 6 here. We can play this guy, this guy. So it's just this puzzle. I remember even one time we had an injury or 2, and I remember walking out. And I remember there was a football player on the watching the first game, and I'm like, dude, do you want to play tonight? Like, I need a body. He's like, sure. Because I knew he was cleared with football, and he's like, sure. So he went out and he played that night. And I say that story because I never forget that team. And I make sure our teams never forget that team. Because it was that team that started this culture. Because we got into, I got into a room with our coaches, and I'm like, why do we coach? And so we came up with a mission, we came up with a vision, and we came up with core values that we started to implement into our team. And it wasn't until about 7, 8 years later that I really started to understand what it was about. I mean, I remember that first year, man, we went to Bishop's and we lost by 50 points, okay? And I remember, okay, they were pressing the whole time, you know, and when that happens, I'm sure you've experienced where your parents are just like, why are they pressing, why this? And my response was like, well, we need to get better then. Like, they should press us. This is an opportunity for us to get better. I remember shaking hands. I remember, like, the coaches that kicked my tail for a long time. I mean, we didn't beat Parker for 8 years. Like, 8 years. And you know, their coach told me he's a hard-nosed coach, a competitor. But I'll be honest, I didn't like him at the beginning. But I grew to love him, and I grew to appreciate him, and I started to thank him. And it's funny I even bring this up, because I wasn't planning to bring this up, but he sent me a text today. It's like, hey, let's meet up for coffee. I'm like, absolutely. Because the one thing I'm going to say to him again is thank you. Like, thank you for kicking our tail, because you made our team and program better. And so when you're talking about the losses, it's how you handle those losses, but it goes back to the culture. And there was a book that was pretty powerful in my life, and it was called Win Forever by Pete Carroll. And I remember going like I'm just vision. If you're a visionary, is this even on? Do I need this? Can you hear me?
You're fine.
If you're a visionary, you start dreaming of like different things. You start dreaming of putting yourself in places. And then I started dreaming about our program, and I was like, man, I want to win, but I just don't want to win once. Like, I want to be a competitive team and a competitive program where people like look at us, and it's a team that's like they're hard to play against. And Pete Carroll's book, as I went through it, he had a philosophy. He had a culture. He was very intentional about what he did. And so that helped me in my, of this whole culture building. And so I just want to run through this. Listen, being an athletic director, I've been in these meetings and I know, 20 years of them and I understand all that's going on, but I just want to give you practical things. As I was thinking, I don't just want to come in and speak. I want to give you something that I have learned that was a blast to me, that I fell in love with, that has been able to get parents on board with what we're doing, been able to get players on board with what we're doing, but it's a teaching and getting them to buy into what we're trying to accomplish. And so this is in your notes, but if you do have a pen, I'd love you to write this on the front. And I want you to write coach, okay? And then I want you to draw a little line and say, coach creates the culture. A coach creates the culture. The second step is culture. And culture drives the behavior. Okay? So you have leader creates the culture. Culture drives the behavior. And behavior produces results. And I think a lot of times as you think through that, if these get out of order and the leader drives the behavior, you can't drive every behavior. If I didn't get back on defense, Coach K didn't come out and tell me, someone else told me to get back on defense. And he said, we don't do this at Duke. Coach K didn't do that, but Coach K set the culture that determined how we act in that arena. And when I looked around, I'm telling you, immediately, I didn't even feel I'm like, he's right. And so you have to understand that the behaviors produce the results of what we're looking for. That quote, the only real thing that leaders do is create and manage culture. If you do not manage culture, it manages you, and you may not be aware to the extent of this is happening. So think about that. What's your job description? For our coaches at Santa Fe, your job description is to create and manage culture. That's your job description. And when you think about it, you think what that entails, let's look at that. So the next page says, in section 1, what is culture? Culture is the overall environment you create for your program that encompasses virtually everything you do, from your program's goals, values, expectations, and you might want to circle that, expectations. Don't put rules, put expectations, right? It's not rules. Rules is like a dictatorship type of deal. Expectations is what we expect. We expect you to get back on defense. Standards, discipline, feedback, recognition, punishment, and leadership. All of those things is your culture. So what does your culture involve? It involves a vision, values, beliefs, priorities, standard of behavior, expectations, the way you treat each other, the method of discipline you use, and the way you are selecting your team members. Okay? So I just threw in there, this is our culture. Plain and simple. And we can define it. My first years at Santa Fe, the vision to me as I was sitting, what do we want this program to be? I want to be the hardest working team in San Diego that competes at a championship level each year. That was the beginning of the vision. And so then we set out to just train our coaches. We set to train our parents. Then when we step on the floor, like, I don't care if we're a small school or whatever, and I know small private schools have this like recruiting, which I'm not denying they have, but at our school, and they have to be faith-based, they have to have money, because the max they can get is a 50% scholarship, but that's based on their income, and it's not, if they score 50 points a game, it doesn't matter, they have to do this, and they have to have good grades. And so, which I was fine with. So I thought to myself, if we're not a recruiting school, what are we? To me, we're a developing school because we have a K through 12 program. That's our advantage, right? And so I thought, okay, then our middle school, we're going to have 50, basketball teams. I don't care if they don't know how to play. That's the time we're going to teach them all what it is. And so at the end of the day, I was thinking, okay, that's the vision. How do we do it? And to compete at the highest level, well, those first couple of years, we weren't even close to this vision. Vision takes time, right? Then all of a sudden we started to maybe not win every game, but we'd be within 10. And we, you know, big schools, and a lot of times, hey, you want to play us? And it was like, who? No, we don't want to play you. But every year, tried to call. And then you try and get in tournaments where, you know, you can play against big schools, whether you win or lose. I didn't care. I don't care about my record. I don't even know my record. I don't care about it because I just want to play the biggest schools because it gets us better, right? Now, it can be tough. Don't get me wrong. But that was the vision that I had. About 9 years into it, I was like, I think we're there. Like, I think we are a competitive school. Let's take the next step. And the vision was to win a CF championship at the highest level while making God look good. And my thought was, man, I want to win at the highest level. Now, we haven't done that yet. We have not won an open championship. Okay, but we started winning championships in Division I. And we started qualifying with open. We didn't win a CIF San Diego section, but we won a state section, well, half the state, because the other didn't play through COVID. But that was our COVID year, but that was the best team we've ever had. And we accomplished some pretty cool things in the last 6 years, and I go back, and it's not, and listen, I'm not up here to say what the accomplishments, because when I step back, and I look at all of it, it's when I took a step back is when success started to happen. When I stopped trying to control behavior and I just focused on culture, things changed. Now, it doesn't mean like things happen overnight, but you are creating a culture every single day. And then the mission is different. This is what you do every single day through the game of basketball, develop men of godly character on and off the court. And I know that's what you guys are all about. I mean, that at the end of the day, win or lose, our job is to teach them how to live in this world. And I'm in coaching because my coach in college was one of the biggest mentors in my life. And, you know, it's sad to me because 2 days ago, they put him in a home because he has dementia. And it's just, it breaks my heart, right? But I owe so much to my college coach for what he taught me through the game of basketball. And then how? And the next page is, this is us, right? You got to determine who you are, but our how in this is there's 6 attributes that we use, and this is what we focus on every single day. And we call it level 6. And number 1 is attitude. And we train our parents as well. It's like, man, we need you to model this. And it's a thankful attitude and it's a humble attitude. And so when you don't play that night, and you're unthankful, that's not who we are. We don't do that. And so we teach, you know, if you're moping or whatever, it's like, well, what are you moping about? Well, didn't play. No, we don't do that. And so we try to incorporate this, like how special it is to put on a jersey. Had a kid last year who he knew he wasn't going to play that much, and his whole goal, I just want to get a jersey. And I remember when he put on that jersey, he looks at it and goes, oh, this is good. And I was like, this dude's not going to play. Like, he's not going to play, but yet that's what it's all about, right? And he just felt part of that team. Commitment. Commit to your team, coaches, program. Have a sense of buy-in with no excuses or explanation. And so one of the things we talk about is, you know, if you're late for practice or whatever, don't give me an excuse. We just solve it a different way. We don't need explanation. Now, there's realities to it, so we teach people how to do that. But we want full commitment. We want buy-in to what we're trying to do. And then work ethic. Our work ethic is defined by enthusiasm, doing little things best while having mental toughness. And so you got to define what you want out of your kids, and we feel like if you do those 3 things, you are a good team. If you want to be a great team, you got to go to the next 3. And we do use this as a level. And so if a kid's not working hard, we're like, man, you need to go back to level 1 and check your attitude a little bit. And so we go back to attitude because I believe attitude is the foundation of a good day. If you wake up and you're in a bad mood, you know, that's not going to be very good. I heard a great saying, start on offense every day and be prepared to play defense the rest of the day. And if you have that mentality, man, when you get out of bed, you know, I'm going after this, it's going to be a different deal. Accountability. We expect accountability. We expect our players to hold each other accountable. It's exactly what Quinn Cook did to me. He held me accountable. Now, if he's yelling at me, okay, you need to get back. I know. But when someone says something like, we don't do that here, that takes it off of you and puts it back onto the culture. Trust, obviously, and level 6 is love, and that is like a sacrifice. And we talk about this, and there was one practice, when this is some strategies that we use. It's like, okay, you guys have 10 8-6-4-2s, and if you know what 8-6-4-2 is, one of them is brutal. I'll say you got 10 of them today. But I will every time you show level 6, I will take one off. And that practice is like, and so I'm like, okay, you understand what it means, man. You're high-fiving your buddy, you got energy, you're talking, you're ready to play. That's level 6. That's what it looks like. So every day you're trying to teach them what that looks like. So that's us, and that's our established vision, mission, core values. And so in preseason we have 6 meetings that we take each level and we instill in our kids. And we spend about an hour on each of them, and we try to embed that into the program. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to give you this to help you understand how to create a culture in your team. And there's 6 functions of a culture. It shapes people, it encourages people, it reinforces and rewards, it limits, it attracts and retains. This is a good one. I'll talk about this one a little bit. When we establish, you guys that play, that do a winter sport, you understand you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, for us, you have winter break. There's a month off of school. And so it's like, at the beginning, when we started, it was like, hey, we play Thanksgiving, we play Christmas, and we play winter break. And it's like, well, I have the... Okay, well, we don't do that. So you might want to go pick a different sport because we have attendance policy. And so the first couple of years you battle that, right? But then through it, once you're established, you create a culture and they understand. So for me, I work with our freshmen that have never heard. But I look at their attitude. Parents come up, I'm so sorry, I got a plane ticket for Thanksgiving. I'll work with you. Like, we can work together on this, but understand that from here on out, and so typically I don't schedule freshman stuff during that time, but because they need to learn the culture, right? So it's not for everybody, and you don't want everybody, right? And if it's someone that doesn't fit those 6 core values, like if someone's a very arrogant person, I don't care how they're good, I don't want them in our team. And I don't, now, one thing I will say, a lot of times one person can come in and if your whole team surrounds them, they change. But if you have 4 or 5 of them and now you have a battle between, now you're going to have a little bit of battle on your hands. It controls and influences and it impacts your success. There's 8 kind of cultures, and you can read through these, but the importance of identifying these 8 cultures is to identify where your culture is. And you got to determine, is it a competitive culture where there's a strong focus on results and moderate to minimal focus on relationships? You can identify, man, we're all about winning, we're all about winning, we're all about winning, and all of a sudden the relationship part isn't there, but then you fall short or it doesn't sustain. You may have one great year because you have this, but then they get, tired of it's just all about winning. Championship culture, define mission, vision, core values, and standards of behavior, all aligned with whatever the philosophy of the school is. And each team is a subculture of a main culture at RBV. And that's, again, I'll tell you, as an athletic director, it was just mainly, what do you define success at? I look at their culture. And if their culture's bad, are you doing anything about it? Then we're good because I know you're progressing in it. So, the bottom of the page there, the 4 approaches to culture awareness for coaches. The first one is absolutely clueless. And I've been there. All of us have been at one of these areas. I've been absolutely clueless. I didn't know. I was hoping to win. You walk in, man, I hope to win. We prepared our team, I hope to win. But that only takes you so far. But you have no, like, what is this culture? And then I started looking at, okay, I'm going to look at the top teams, and I want to know what they do. And I started reading Coach K books, and then the Pete Carroll book. And then, you know, that's where I started to like, what separates these guys? What separates these programs? And it was clear in every one of them. It wasn't the same thing, but it was very clear mission, vision, core values, based on relationships. The second is conscious but confused. You're aware of the culture but unsure of how to go about it. Like, yeah, I know it's wrong, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to change it. You're conscious but conflicted. Your preferred culture is nowhere near your present culture. And I can tell you 16 years ago, that was me. Like, I don't know how we can get there. Like, I want to go there, but that seems like such a long ways away. And then on the next page, conscious and calculated culture. And the two words I circled here is intentional and systematic. And when you think about this, and you think about culture, it is intentional. You can come to practice every day, and you can work. But if you don't have intentional strategies that go back to your vision and core values, okay, you're only going to get so far. And then the 6 components of a championship culture. The first one is credible leaders. The second is clear and compelling vision. You have core values. You have standards of behaviors. You have aligned systems, engaged and unified teams. So the first one, credible leaders. This is a big deal. You guys, I'm fired up for you guys. And I'm going to give a plug to the Jansen Leadership Program, and I want to tell you what it did for us. Okay? When I became AD, I did not want to become athletic director. I was like, I don't want to be athletic director. I turned it down. And then I came again, and finally I was just like, because I didn't want to get out of the class. Like, I love being on the field with the kids, and I just remember someone just gave me some great advice, like, your influences could spread. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, what can I do to create that I want to still be with the kids? Well, I met Jeff Jansen in the spring when I was thinking these thoughts, and he had this leadership program, and it was awesome. And the curriculum was easy. It was 12 lessons, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And it's a 2-part program. It's emerging leaders for your sophomores, juniors, and it's veteran leaders for your juniors, seniors. And it goes through a program, and I can tell you honestly today, that has taught me more practical tools in my leadership than anything that's come my way. And I use it every single day of my life. Every single day. And so what you guys are going to, it's a 2-year process. And I remember being right at that time, CIF changed from enrollment based to how you've done. Okay, and I'm athletic director, it's my first year. I'm like, how are we going to ever win a CIF championship again? There's no way, like, we're small schools. But in my mind, I'm like, it went back to the vision. And I'm like, but this is what I wanted. And I know a lot of small schools were like, oh no, what is this? But I was like, no, this is what I wanted. This is the vision. This is where we can have our chance. And I remember, and again, I don't want to put this, I want to give so much credit to this. I want to give so much credit to the things that I feel God has brought in my life that has helped direct that vision. When you get a vision, you start moving forward, these pieces start to fall into place. And I remember as athletic director, I had a CF trophy in my hand, and I went to the cabinet and I put it in, and I started counting the CF trophies. And from 2012 to 2016, there was one 2013 volleyball runner-up CIF. And I was like, oh my goodness, there was nothing. Then I started counting from 2016 till now, and there was over 20. And my initial thought was the Leadership Academy. The Leadership Academy, because in the Leadership Academy you teach the kids how to lead the teams, and you step back. And the moment you step back and your kids are leading the team, and it's hard hard because you want control and you want all this, but at the end of the day, you have to deal with that. You deal with the minor stuff, and when they learn how to do that, it takes off. And so the last thing, and I'll leave you with this, but it's a 10-step process, that here's what I would challenge you guys with. I would challenge you with this is what I did. Is you just get a cup of coffee and you go away and you start answering these questions. And the first step to building a championship team, and it's out of this book that I put right there, is you envision your preferred culture. So what do you want your program to stand for? So who cares where your program is now? Start answering these questions. Okay? What do you want your program to stand for? Then you see, what do you want your opponents to say after competing against you? Okay? What do you want your opponents to say competing against you? What do you want to stand for in your school, your conference, your sport? What do you want people on campus and your community to say about your program? How do you want to treat each other? How do you want to feel when you are together practicing, competing, etc.? And then you go to step 2. And that's, you have to evaluate where you are. You look at all these cultures and you just like, I'm right there. We are a comfortable culture, or wherever you are. You have to know where you are to move forward. The third one is start, stop, continue. This is a great chart. What should you start to help improve your culture? What should you stop? That's the hardest thing. When you're doing something, and again, it goes back to, does everything you say align with what you do? So let me give you an example. And this is tough, and this is where the rubber meets the road, I think, a little bit. So, freshmen carrying all the bags. Okay? So that's typical. Like they should carry the bags. And so I started, after I made this, our program, I'm like, well, there's some validity to that, but it shouldn't be like, dude, carry my bag. Because that's not what I'm saying in our core values. Like, if I'm saying we should have a humble attitude, like, that doesn't align. And so, about 10 years ago, we started to change how we welcomed our freshmen. And it was like, now, it doesn't mean you get a pass on everything, but it's like, if I'm the leaders, teach our leaders, help the freshmen put the balls away once in a while. Whatever their job might be, the leader should be a servant leader in helping, if that's what I'm preaching to them. Now, if you're preaching something else, well, just make sure it's aligned. If you believe in that, then make sure it's aligned in what you're saying in your core values. So everything is aligned. And I'll step back and I'll just say this, from that experience, I have a son who's going to be a senior, and the way he was treated as a freshman, like as a parent, okay, yes, yeah, but you were the coach, no, okay, but all the other kids were treated the same way, just bless my heart. And so what's he doing now? I mean, he's not treating the freshmen, because you'll treat someone the way you were treated, right? Like that's just natural, unless someone breaks the deal. So stop, and then what do you continue? And then the fourth, the next thing is list and involve others who share the similar vision. I mean, parents is the big one, right? Like, how do you get parents involved? Like, we do a lot of teaching, and I'll be straight up with you. The reason of our success, a lot of this recently, is this, but it's also our parents. And we didn't win last year. We lost where we should have won when it comes to the rankings. We had a home game. We lost, but at the end of the day, I feel like we won because everybody was involved. And this summer I had a parent whose kid hardly played and is a senior. Because we went, he said, Coach, that was such a great game. And I'm just thinking to myself, your son hardly played, right? And I feel like my junior, senior parents are unbelievable, but I feel like my freshman, sophomore parents need more training, right? And so every year we train them, and we say, this is what we do, this is how we do things, and eventually they figure it out. But if we build a wall between them, like I tell them, I need you and you need me. And so that's how do you get your parents involved. Choose and empower leaders. Establish a mission, vision, values is what we talked about. One thing I would highly suggest is always have an attendance policy. You have to have an attendance. One thing I told my coaches, there's three things you need: attendance policy, letter policy, and playing time policy. I have a pyramid of playing time policy, and I put like in the summer, you know, it's a little more. When we get into the beginning of the season, I narrow it a little bit. When we get to the playoffs, best man plays, and that's how it is. And so being very clear with them when it comes to freshmen, a little bit more, JV a little bit more. When we get to varsity, welcome to real life. You earned your playing time, okay? And so, but you have to be clear in what that looks like. And then the next page is our standards of behavior, and you can look through that. That's actually a Jansen thing. And then 6, how do you embed those mission, vision? And these are all questions. How do you evaluate? The next, how do you endorse and acknowledge? I don't want to take all your time, but how do you enforce unacceptable behavior? And then how do you welcome in new members? And listen, this changed my view of culture. It gave me practical steps of what to do. It gave me questions to help formulate, you know, where we go. I would get your coaches in a room and like, why do we coach? Like, why do we want to be here? Because you as coaches want to get those phone calls 10 years down the road. It's the best thing there ever is. And you have major influence in what they do. So I just want to share with you, you know, what's been important to me. And when I took my eyes off myself, okay, and put it on the culture and put it on how we behave in, and I just managed all of those things, then the kids manage themselves. And when the parents come to the kids and go, you know, well, why is it? We don't talk about that. We don't do that here, Dad, Mom. This is how we act. So, any questions or any? I'm good here, but thank you guys for having me, and best of luck this year.
Remember that next time we're playing a men's league game or pickup game together and you don't get back on defense, I'll just say, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. Chad talked a little bit about this idea of the Jansen Sports Leadership Center, and I mentioned that before I had him come up here. But just there's a handout if you didn't get it. There's one at the door. You can pick it up on the way out with some information about exactly what that means. We are going to have 4 cohorts of emerging leaders. 3 specifically that'll be athletics. One for our fall sports, one for our winter sports, one for our spring sports. And this will be the foundation of who we are. Chad talked about how it's imperative to have a school-wide and an athletic department-wide vision for what we want to do. And this is our start to establish the culture that we want to have. We need to teach our kids the proper way to be student athletes. And we need to teach them how to be leaders. And this is what we are doing to address that. There will be 1 cohort of veteran leaders. The reason that we're only doing 1 this year is because no one's gone through the program before. We think that there's probably about 20 to 25 kids on campus that have, you know, kind of a high level of knowledge of what they would learn in that first program. So we're going to restrict that. But we want to have more conversation with you all about that and what this means. So there's some information on here. We do encourage some additional dialogue. Some of you are sitting in this room that will be participating as cohort leaders, and we're looking forward to your involvement with that. The number one thing that we need, and I'm sure Chad can talk about this as well, is we need buy-in from you. We need to make sure that as we go forward with this, as we talk to parents about this, that you are an advocate for our Leadership Academy. So it's certainly something that we'll continue to talk about. But as you have conversations with your parents, I'm sure there'll be some questions about what this looks like, what it's going to be. Make sure that we connect with Tim as well, so that you're saying the right things and we're building this program up. It's not one that we're taking lightly, and we think that this will directly impact the results on the field or on the court for you. With that, I would like to have Tim come up and lead us in our final couple of programs. We'll be done here. We're going to honor your time and get you out of here at 7:30. We want to make sure we finish up with a couple more things.
All right, guys. Actually, I'm not going to use this. So, First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming. I know it's summer. I know football had practice, volleyball's practicing right now, and it's a commitment to show that you guys want to come, see what this is about, and what we're looking forward to do with the program. I am humbled to work with you guys. It's a privilege. A lot of you guys are my mentors that are here, who have been here since my first day, and it's humbling for me to be able to now take this to the next level, what I think Rancho could be. And this is just the start. This Leadership Academy that Sam brought on through Chad, that he learned about, is I think a great step. And I've already talked to Sam here a little bit. Like, I want to do a coach's Leadership Academy. I want to teach you guys so that you guys know what this is that we're going to be using with our kids. Okay? That we're going to be teaching our kids of how they can be their self-leaders so that we can control that culture. So that we, as coaches, can do our job not only to coach and do the fundamentals and coach and teach them to be men and women beyond high school, beyond Rancho, that you can focus on that kind of stuff besides all the clutter and the mess that goes on in the background. And that's what this Leadership Academy, I'm hoping, will bring to Rancho. We have a great tradition. So, understand that. I'm following in the footsteps of some very, very powerful ADs. From Rick Bethel to Hargrave to Whitten to Marty, and now I get to step in. I want to put my footprint on what they put on, and I just want to keep building upon that. And for us to do that is part of this Leadership Academy. And also going in with what Sam and Marty kind of started last year, Dr. V, was this commitment through the Respect the Ranch that we use as a value statement here at Rancho already. We've had that for a while. It's nothing anything new. It's just we got to make it a priority. And make Respect the Ranch part of our tradition, part of our values as an athletic department, so that we can keep moving forward, not only what these kids are learning in with the Leadership Academy, but those kids who aren't in that Leadership Academy, who are being spread from those leaders, but they're also hearing it from you guys. Okay? So that's the key thing that I want to make sure that we understand. And when you guys walked in, you guys got my pyramid of success of coaching. I developed that when I was going through my master's program in coaching athletic administration, to what my ultimate goal is if I ever was able to become an athletic director and be able to put this in place and put it as a vision. And a lot of you guys I talked to already, spring coaches, I'm still got to set up some meetings with you guys, but I hit about 90% of the head coaches, and I've talked to you guys about my philosophy of what I'm going to bring into for me, what I'm going to be asking you guys as coaches and as head coaches and as assistant coaches. This is the first time you guys are seeing it, and it's that pyramid of success. I mean, John Wooden had it. It's nothing new. It's nothing that I'm just recreating it to make it fit for us. Okay, and what that base foundation is character. That's what Respect the Ranch is. You got to have that foundation. Then there's some other stuff in there which ultimately leads to the development of a student athlete. As everybody kind of said up here already, who talking about it, is we got to have that ultimate goal. And that ultimate goal for me is developing a student athlete. And that's not just, we're not talking about just athletes. We can do that. That's what we do, right, as coaches? We develop those athletes. But to become a student athlete, and what does that mean? Okay? And that's what that Leadership Academy is going to be. That's what the mission and vision statement that I want to talk with you guys, and I'm going to work with Sam to get that. By the end, my goal for me at the end of the year is to develop a true mission and vision statement for RBV athletics. I have an idea what it should be, but it shouldn't just be my idea. It should be a collective idea from all of you guys, because I'm not at every practice. I'm not out at softball. I'm not out at football. I'm not at the wrestling mat. I'm not on the soccer field. Okay? But you guys are. So that's what I need to make sure that you guys have. And to start with it, which is going to be a big part of it, is the Respect the Ranch. And in the Respect the Ranch, we have the 3 traits. Everybody know what they are? Integrity,
responsibility,
commitment. Okay? So integrity, responsibility, and commitment, and that's part of that player-coaches compact that Sam and Marty and Dr. V kind of kicked off last year, got some footing, just it got lost because there was a lot of things happening last year. New administration, thing called COVID, a lot of different things, okay? So we're really going to try to get this really going to make, one, coaches accountable, which you guys are. It's not saying that you're not. You guys already are, but just to make sure you're holding to the standards. And then also the players. The players are the ones that need this, okay? So just real quick, just want to go through what does integrity look like, okay? Integrity is playing by the rules. It's being honest with yourself and to your student athletes, okay? It's holding your student athletes to the highest standard that you can hold them to on and off the field. By doing this, this will make winning a game or a championship even better. The next one's responsibility. It's about being a role model and a mentor. You guys, that's a responsibility that we have as coaches, is being that role model and mentor, which we talked about tonight by two other presenters. Be prepared. You look at that pyramid of success, that's all about preparation. Those couple of those middle lines in there are all about your preparation as a coach to make sure that you are prepared to make sure our student athletes are going to be in the right position so that they can be successful on that field. And also having a positive and fun environment. I hate sometimes as a coach, you go, oh, I don't want fun, because then the kids are just relaxed. But you got to have some fun at times. We got to create that environment, because fun will naturally happen. And you guys have all seen it. When you have that team that you just has clicked, those championship teams that you have been on, that you've been a part of, that you've coached, those teams are fun because the student athletes make it fun, and it makes it fun for you. Okay? So let's create that as a natural environment, no matter if you're winning championships or not. That your kids go out there, they're going to have fun, they want to be at that practice. They don't dread coming to practice. They don't dread going to the games. Okay, and again, doing all that will make winning championships even better. The last one is commitment. Make sure that we have our academics taken care of, and it's a priority to be mentally and physically ready, and to understand what it means to be a Longhorn. Again, this Leadership Academy is going to develop that for us. Okay, what does it mean to be a Longhorn? But it takes, as Sam said and as Chad said, it takes us as coaches to make sure that we set that standard. And we're going to live to that standard. We're going to be that standard. Okay, you guys know that if our student athletes are watching us every minute. They watch us. As teachers, they watch us as teachers in a classroom. They know what they can get away with. They know. You guys were players. You know. Okay? No matter how hard a working player they are. Okay? They know when they can take time off. They know when they can be late. They know when this. Because that's the standard we set as a coaching staff. As an athletic program. Okay? We need to let's get that in order, and let's put that together so that we can make it so that standard isn't slacking off, or isn't missing a practice because I have to go to whatever event that they create for soccer and going to Disneyland or whatever it was at one time, right? So all those different things that they have a built-in excuse. Well, it's okay to do that. No, it's not. It's not okay. For you winter sports who are playing over Christmas and Thanksgiving, that it's not okay to miss those tournaments, that they're important to be there for. And we create that culture, all right? So that's what we have to do as a athletic department, that I feel that my main responsibility is to get coaches on board. You know, Chad said, there's a couple things that Chad hit home when he was talking, and one is getting away from kids. I am far away from kids now, okay? I mean, I was far away when I had a little bit with being an ASB director, but stopping coaching hurt me. It's why, you know, it hurt. But then ASB kept me in a little bit. Now I'm totally away, so I'm going to be living through you guys and working with you guys and trying to get this and hopefully being out at your practices and seeing it and looking at it and energizing not only myself, but energizing the program so that the student athletes see not only that I care, but that you care, Okay? And then we get, as Chad said, those parents bought in. It's those parents. One of the main things when I interviewed for the job, I want to educate parents. I want to hold sessions with parents. I want to educate them, because if we can educate parents, our program can go even farther than what it is. And I think we can do that through the Leadership Academy that they taught us, and there's some other stuff that I have. So I'm going to be educating those parents for you through this, letting them know the Respect the Ranch and what their student athletes are signing, so we can get it going. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you guys, when your sport is up, so fall sports, this is you guys. We're going to have that compact again. We'll get it to you. I think you got a copy of it, correct? You guys got a copy of it. I'll supply copies. I'll be working with you guys, with the head coaches. We want to get that signed by the athletes. Okay? We want you to take some time, and as Chad said, you got to work in time. If you want to change culture, you got to work in time to change culture in your practice. Okay? So you got to put some time into your practices to talk about these character traits. Not only the 3, but any other ones that you feel that are important. So we got to make time in practice. So that first week, we're going to hopefully get those fall sports, and the winter sports, and then spring sports, those players to sign this. And you guys talk about it to them, and how we're going to hold them to a higher standard. Okay? And we're going to be able to do this, and to be able to start creating this new culture that's coming here to us at RBV. So hopefully, all of this, you guys are, as I said before, I hold you guys in the highest regards. So I'm going to come and talk to you guys. I want to hear you guys out. But at the same time, we want to change this. We want to go to that next level. And the only way we're going to do it is buy-in from you guys. And I've talked to a lot of you already, and you guys are on board, and I love it. Okay? So I just hope that we can continue to build this, continue to what we've started, and then just keep building upon it to make Rancho even better than what my previous predecessors had before me, what they've already built. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys' time, and I look forward to not only a growing season, but probably one of the best, I think, sleeping giants in North County and involving part of athletics. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Talk through tonight, we want to set this tone of not only informing and inspiring, but also celebrating you and the work that you're doing. And with that, we want to celebrate what we feel, and this is not to exclude anyone, there are several programs and coaches on our campus that are immensely inclusive of our student athletes and champion our student athletes. We have to start somewhere. And so this year we want to honor the first ever Respect the Ranch Inclusion Award by honoring our cross-country coaching staff from 21-22. So if we could have Erica and Paul and Will come on up here. We got some hardware for you guys. Congratulations. Coach, congratulations. Thank you. Coach, congratulations. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. So we want to just, again, commemorate the work that our cross-country program did, and then all of us, we're all working towards this, but I think the cross-country program did an excellent job of really reaching out to our student athletes from a variety of different backgrounds and abilities to come out and compete for them this past year. Okay? So again, I want to thank you. As Tim pointed out, this is your summertime. Some of you guys are starting workouts, getting prepared for the fall sports season. We know time is valuable to you and from your family, so thank you for being here. Thank you for being intentional. We're trying to be intentional about you and about RBV athletics. We're trying to be intentional about raising this entire athletic department to a championship level. Not 1 year, not here and there, but every level in every sport. That's our goal, right? Our goal is to provide our kids with a championship level experience and to help you be as successful as you can on the courts or fields. So thank you for your time tonight. There's plenty of food left. Take a box if you want. If you have kids at home, take some salad, right? And please enjoy the rest of your summer until we get back, and then